sister circle, your resources, everything that you need in order for you to feel that you're going to be successful. We have an awesome group of women with us today. And if I may add, they all look great rocking their pink in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I will take a moment to introduce you to each of them momentarily. However, as a quick note, please use the Q&A section to add questions or comments as we are discussing each topic. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A portion of this session. We also ask that you complete the survey for this session, as we would love to hear your feedback, and you can look for that in the chat. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our panelists. First, we have Ms. Angel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angel Allen. I work in the CCIE Dean's Office.
Next, we have Ms. Carolina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolina Marchena, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Clinical Skills and Simulation Center at the School of Medicine.
Ms. Chutney.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chutney DeFreitas Thomas, and I'm the Administrative Assistant to the Executive Director of Housing.
Ms. Jessica.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm Jessica Wicke. I'm a faculty member at the Rosen College of Hospitality Management in the Tourism, Events, and Attractions Faculty Department. I'm also the program director for our internship program.
Ms. Jory.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jory Bright. I am a human communications instructor in the Nicholson School of Communication and Media.
Ms. Sarah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Grogan Lovelace, and I also work at the Rosen College of Hospitality Management, and I am the event coordinator on campus.
Ms. Sasha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sasha Lamansing. I work in the College of Sciences as an administrative assistant.
Ms. Shamika.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shamika Day, and I work at the Nicholson School of Communication and Media as the academic program coordinator.
Ms. Vanessa.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vanessa Gonzalez. I'm an academic advisor with the UCF Rosen College.
Thank you, ladies. Now we will move into our first topic, which is health and wellness. I will get us started by talking about something that most of us do not do enough of, which is taking time for ourselves. As women, we are called to do so many things and wear so many hats. We are, in fact, super women. We're significant other, mom, friend, daughter, sister, employee, student, and a host of other things. And sometimes we forget the importance of taking time for ourselves. We forget that it is important to carve out some me time to ensure that we are taking care of our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. The problems that we face when we do not make time for ourselves is we get burnt out. We become very stressed, overwhelmed, fatigued, sometimes irritable. And all of these things, along with others, affects our overall health and well-being. And when those things are negatively impacted, we are no good to ourselves or to anyone else. Around January, I will be honest, in February of this year, I was struggling. I struggled in various areas of my life, and I felt as if I needed a break from my daily routine and from life itself. I was drained. However, then the pandemic hit, and it forced me to hit the reset button in my life. And because of that, I was able to make the necessary changes to carve out time for myself and making sure that now I feel more energized, healthier, and happier. And I've gotten a lot closer to my family and friends, started doing yoga. I mean, it's kind of going, but I've started doing those things and journaling more as well to help me with understanding how important that time for myself is. And I appreciate having to make these changes because they were necessary, and being able to hit that pause or reset button in my life was important and beneficial to me, but also to the people around me.
I completely agree with that. I feel like similar to you, especially with the pandemic happening, and for myself, just kind of going through like a crisis where it's like, I didn't feel I was grounded and I wanted to come back to that feeling. And so for me, it was really important. And the first thing I did was actually a social media cleanse. I don't know if anyone's ever done that, but I highly recommend it. It's kind of something you think about as being really hard because we're so invested in our phones. But when I did it, I'm telling you, like, I felt so reconnected to my family and what was going on in front of me. I was able to focus on that matter. And I wasn't worrying and doing these comparisons with other people that I would see on social media. And I feel like even though we may not realize it, things like that do take a taunting on our personality, on our well-being. So it's really important with social media for me and health and wellness that you don't take it as seriously as I think some of us don't even recognize we do, and take that moment and step away and kind of focus on what's in front of you, your family, your friends. Similar to the pandemic, take that time to be invested in things you may have never tackled before, or get in touch with your, your physical health and your eating habits. And I think it's super important to just remember that you want to stay grounded and focus on what's in front of you, because even in the workplace, we kind of tend to spend majority of our time with that work family, and we don't even realize that, we're having these relationships and we want to maintain them. So I think relationships for me is super important in the workplace and any part of your being, really.
Thanks, Sasha. So one of the ways that really has helped me to remember that health and wellness includes your whole self is the concept of energy management. So in 2007, professors Tony Schwartz and Catherine McCarthy published an article in the Harvard Business Journal titled "Manage Your Energy, Not Your Time." Energy is our capacity to work, and the article explains that since we use that capacity in all areas of our lives, the way we manage our energy matters. In other words, energy management assists us in being our most healthy, present, and full selves in the spaces that we occupy. So according to Schwartz and McCarthy, energy itself comes from four main areas. There's our physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And when we learn how to manage energy in all of these areas well, we are investing in our health and well-being. So how do you do this practically? For me, it comes down to identifying vampires and empires in each of those areas. Vampires are those things that kind of suck your energy from you, while empires are those things that build you up. Now, there may be the misconception that vampires are bad, but that's not always the case. For example, for me, time with others can be both an emotional empire and a vampire. And it really just depends on if I'm depleted or full in the other three areas. So if I want to spend time with people I love, since quality time is my love language, but as an introvert, I know that this will take a large chunk of energy and therefore be a vampire for me. I know that I should not only take on the task of, moving things around, not running 13 miles or analyzing data so that I can be there fully for my friends and family. I save my energy for what's important, recognizing that doing so not only helps me to set boundaries, but is also self-care. For you to do this, all you have to do is grab a sheet of paper, split it up into 4 parts, and throughout your day, kind of identify how you're using your time, putting plus signs for those things that are giving you energy and minus signs for those that are not, and identifying if they are emotional, spiritual, mental, or physical energy. This is a great way to get started and a very practical way to bring your whole self to anything that you are going through, and also thinking about self-care.
So I'll share a little bit about my life. So in the last 10 years, I had big changes. One was having a child, and I also lost my mom. So there were like ups and downs, right? Like everybody goes through. And exercise has been the thing that kind of kept me grounded. And I learned a lot about, having something that is doable. I cannot work out every day for an hour. So I work out maybe 3 times a week for 30 minutes. The other thing that I learned is, we made it at work before COVID. We were going for walks with a few coworkers for 15 minutes. And it was great because we could chat about nothing work. Obviously, we would talk about our hobbies or kids or whatever, food. And but it is something that you don't realize how much it can change your day. And I started realizing how much it changed my mood, especially when I was grieving. It was really hard to get, your mind keeps working and, what am I going to do now? Who am I going to talk to? And doing something physically really changed the way I felt. So I think, it doesn't have to be grandiose, and doesn't have to be, weird yoga poses, but it has to be something you can enjoy, you can do. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Just a little bit a day, or a little bit every other day will make such a huge difference. So exercise, I've learned lately, not lately, but throughout, like now I get it 10 years later, how much it has helped me deal with so many, the stress of being a new mom, the stress of a job that I moved from a coordinator to, managing people, and all the stress that brings. And that has helped me so much. So I think that would be my tip.
Thank you, everyone, for your insights. So now we are going to turn to our next topic, which is learning to say no. So to get us started, on the count of 3, you don't have to turn on your mics, but I would like to have a little practice of everyone saying no. So you ready? 1, 2, 3. No. Doesn't that feel good? Now, I understand that practicing saying no during a session is one thing, but actually putting this into action for everyday life is totally different. One way that I have found to help me with this is by having a no squad. So you may be wondering, what's a no squad? Well, a no squad is a group of people who understand that saying no may not be the easiest thing for you, especially when your no is tied to giving your best yes. Those times when you have a good thing and another good thing to choose from. Yes, we've all been there. I have made it a habit to be a member of the No Squad for many of my friends, especially my friends who are caretakers, spouses, working inside or outside of the home, and let's just say it, doing all the things that we women do and doing it well. So look around this virtual room and find 1 or 2 people you recognize, and take the time the next time you say no to reach out to them, so that you remember to celebrate using your no to set boundaries that are best for you. Finally, when you need it, I'm sure that practicing saying no a few times in the mirror couldn't hurt. Jessica, what do you have to say about learning to say no?
Thank you so much, Shamika. And you have such great advice. You really are chock full of great things. I've been writing it down. So I agree. Saying no is something I struggle with a lot. I feel like if I say no, I'm letting people down. If I say no, I'm looked at differently, that I can't handle what's in front of me. And so it's been a really tough transition into that. So I really learned to set some boundaries, as you said, saying no. And one of my dear friends said to me, she said, Jessica, when you say no to someone or that project, you're saying yes to yourself. And I thought, that is brilliant. It's giving me time, right? So you want to give 100% of your time and effort to the projects and the people that are important to you, and that is important to your work and to your career and to the students and to your constituents in your organization and in your circle. So prepare to say those no's. Create that balance before you go into that scenario. And what I mean by that is set some guidelines for yourself. So I know personally, I don't work on Sundays. I don't schedule meetings on Sundays. I don't do any work. That's my day. I know I say I only do 1 networking night event per week. If that's done and booked, I don't book another one. I only take 1 mentee on per semester. I want to give that mentee my undivided attention and their due respect of their time as well. So I know that setting those boundaries will really help me to keep that balance and to keep what Carolina said, to keep that balance of your health and well-being. The last thing I want to say on this is it might be hard to say no, but there's some great ways to say no. A really nice way to say no is right now my plate is full, but can we connect on that project in April? Or right now, that's not on my scope of research or my scope of teaching, but maybe can I recommend? And actually, one of our amazing panelists said this last time, if you recommend someone else, you're giving them now a seat at the table. I think Jory said that. It was brilliant. I wrote it down. It was brilliant. So think about that. Think about your team and think about who you could recommend moving forward. And that way, when you do say no, you've created that balance and you're ready to say no, but thank you. And always end it, no, but thank you for asking me. That's a real honor. I really appreciate it. What do you have to say about that, ToCarra?
Thank you, Jessica and Shamika. As we already know, we wear many hats, and each time we give a yes to someone or something else, we give a no to ourselves in some regard. We're devoting less time and commitment to our dreams, to our goals and aspirations, and who we are striving to become. I'm not saying we shouldn't say yes to others. In fact, we give an automatic yes to certain people in our lives, both personal and professional. And usually for us as women, we are the last person that we give a yes to. And then we become emotionally, mentally, and physically drained, and sometimes spiritually, because we are giving so much of ourselves to others, and then we have nothing left to give to us, to ourselves. So we have to learn how and when to say no, and in return, being okay with that no. We have to get to the point where we are no longer straddling the fence on our nose. Should I, maybe, kind of, sort of? Oh, heck, yes, no. Let's get to the point where we're no longer straddling that fence. And again, this is true from a personal and a professional standpoint. There are times where we are saying yes to every invite, every committee, every initiative, every task or project without realizing that we are putting way too much on our plate. And then I think what we have to do is start with ourselves, reevaluating what we are doing for others and what we should be doing for ourselves. Then have conversations with the people around us to ensure that they understand that sometimes we have to say no, and you'll know when you have to have those conversations. And this is not an easy task, and you may have to adjust your approach depending upon who you're talking to, but it is necessary, and it will help you to create a more healthy work-life balance, or for some of us, hand raised, a more healthy work-school life balance, okay? Which I believe helps our overall health. How about you, Miss Carolina?
So I love the idea of the vampire and the empire, so I'm going to use that now. I'm going to ask that question first. Who are you? But, you know, at work, I have to say, I actually, my team gave me a yes button because I would always say no to a lot of things. But to me, the struggle has always been at home. So I am from Argentina, and you know, women, we have a very specific role. My mom, I remember her asking me, why don't you iron your husband's shirts? And I say, he didn't iron mine. Why do I have to? So we have all these expectations built up that we have to cook, we have to do grocery shopping, we have to do the laundry, we have to clean, and the list can be never ending. So I learned at home kind of to say no to things. So for example, when I have my son, birthdays every single weekend, I can't go to 5 different birthdays. So I kind of taught him, you pick one activity. We either go to the park or we go to a birthday party, but I'm not going to have all weekend 17 kids activities. I need, because I'm also an introvert, so I need me time alone without too much going around. I kind of delegated a lot when my mom got sick. So that kind of taught me, okay, yes, my husband and my child will eat hot dogs maybe 5 days a week because I'm at the hospital. And I had to kind of, give up on some ideals that I have of what a good family is, and kind of realize, well, it's not going to be the perfect idea that I had in mind, but it is okay. They're alive and eating. So it is this managing your expectations on who you think you are if you say no, and you know, and understanding that you're not a bad person for saying no. You're just maintaining that balance and that healthy boundaries with things and people. So I think it it is a learning process, but it is something that I did really well at work, but I wasn't doing it so well at home. But circumstances kind of put me there and taught me, yeah, you're gonna have to say no to these activities and put a stop to trying to have everything your way and kind of, yes, manage your expectations. So I think that I love the vampire. I'm gonna use it from now on. Chutney, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's funny. Everyone has such good advice. Love the energy vampire and empire. But what struck me was the fact that not only do you have to be okay with saying no, but you also have to realize that people also expect to hear no. And it's like, it's also permissible from their point of view. So I was going to talk about the fact that some people have a different culture. Some people have ask culture and some people have guest culture. So some people, if they feel that, you know, they're going to ask a question and whatever answer they get is the answer they get. And other people are going to ask questions around the question that they want to ask. And that can lead to frustration on both sides. And so sometimes when someone is asking you a question and you're starting to feel that nervous pit in your stomach, like, is this the thing I'm going to have to say yes or no to? Sometimes it's better just to go ahead and give them permission to ask you the question so that you can get to the no faster. Because sometimes what happens is people are actually, okay, if she says no, I'm going to go to this person and ask. It also gives you that opportunity to go ahead and recommend someone else. And like everyone else has said, you have to give yourself permission to make time for you, to give yourself back that time. And I know it's hard because a lot of us want to do a really good job and we feel that pressure that we have to do everything and say yes to everything. But I wanted to put this bug in your ear that sometimes if you say yes to everything, it means you can't give 100% to everything else, like everyone else has been saying. So I thought that was interesting. And Jory.
Right. Thank you, Chutney and ToCarra, Shamika, Jessica, Carolina. This was amazing, Sasha. Everything that you're saying ties right into the importance of the next titled section of this discussion, Navigating Communication Dynamics, which is something that we do all the time, whether we are realizing it or not. It's a song and dance every time we have an interaction. And this idea of finding your voice and being able to say no to something so that you can say yes to yourself leads into what I want to talk about as it relates to navigating communication dynamics. And that is being intentional in our communication, whether it is us as the speaker or us as the listener, both verbally and non-verbally, ensuring that we are not being judgmental in our communication. In fact, we want to be intentionally and effectively discerning in our communication. We are met with so much difficult news here lately, whether it is hearing it from the news, the state of our world, on our in our workplace, you know, some people afraid to return to work or wondering if they're going to have a job. And then even in our own homes and personal communications where someone may be ill or someone has lost a job or someone is battling anxiety or depression because of what's going on. And we may find it easier to form an opinion. We form our own opinion about what that communication is going to be like when we are engaging in it, right? So we have these preconceived notions when we see an email come up from our boss. Oh goodness, I'm going to be asked to do something again, or another Zoom meeting, or we see that it's our mom on the phone and it's oh my gosh, I'm going to get grief about not coming to visit, but it's because I'm anxious about COVID or any such thing as that. So these preconceived notions about what the communication, how the communication is going to unfold will often cause us to miss much of the message that we are supposed to be hearing in order so that we can respond, effectively and respectfully and appropriately, right? So it's important that we don't go into, even if it is a message from someone we don't want to hear from. And I don't know if any one of you can relate to that, turning on your news or opening up Twitter, that you may see something from someone that you don't necessarily agree with, but not getting caught up so much in being people-oriented listeners, where we only want to focus on the message if it's coming from someone we believe is going to be in alignment with how we think or how we feel. It's going to agree with us, it's going to be okay with my no, but to give the opportunity to let the message unfold. When Chutney said allowing the person to ask the question, to say what it is they need to say so that you can get to a quicker no, or to get to a more holistic response before you start tuning them out through that judgmental lens of your personal opinion. It is okay to have your personal opinion, but you want to do so. You want to form any decisions, especially in the workplace, where it can make all the difference on you advancing, staying where you are, keeping a job, in your homes, where it may make the difference of making a relationship better, creating cohesiveness in all of your professional and personal relations. It's important that you allow the other to speak, to hear them in their entirety, to, yes, listen with discernment, but not with already a spirit of no, that cognitive restructuring where you're not just going to turn someone off just because of who they are, or you not necessarily loving the topic of the message that's being shared. So you don't want to lose out on something that could be beneficial to you because of you being judgmental in your communication. So what do? How do you avoid being judgmental? Again, avoid the preconceived notions. This is intentional communication, and we want to be intentional, right? We don't want happenstance. We want to just fall into things that are there for us. We want to be intentional about our progression in our lives in all aspects. So avoid those preconceived notions. Listen fully to the message, regardless of who the messenger is. If you disagree with what it is you're hearing, as my mom would say, watch your face. Don't automatically let them see, have that poker face, listen out. And then once it's done and you have actively listened, and I'm so thankful we're going to hear from one of our panelists about actively listening to what's being said and responding constructively. It's okay to offer alternatives, right? And coming off, when you speak, you want to be heard, and ideally you want whatever the intended action, what you believe your communication, the purpose of your communication was for, you want that to happen. That's not going to happen if the one speaking to you or engaging in this interaction feels as if you have dismissed them and their thoughts. Right? Makes sense to everybody? All right. So let's hear from, who am I hearing from? Is it Vanessa? Vanessa, talk to us about what the youngins think about all of this.
Absolutely, Jory. So I think it's very important when considering navigating communication dynamics that this really is a skill, and this evolves and grows with you and develops over time. So in my experience, I definitely would love to share a message with those of you that maybe are younger, or maybe you are newer to higher ed or newer to a profession, and so you might feel younger in that regard. And so I have 5 specific tips for you. The first is learning to speak with confidence. And I truly say learning to speak with confidence because this doesn't happen naturally. And so look for opportunities to practice this with your closest trusted people, to ask someone, hey, I'm looking to get a little bit better at my public speaking. Would you mind if I chat with you and give me some feedback? Your closest friends, your colleagues, people will love the opportunity to help you develop and help you grow that skill. And especially when you are younger, it's almost sometimes there's a connotation that you are not articulate enough or you are not poised enough. And that's absolutely not the case. And so if you are looking to have that confidence, maybe you're confident in your abilities, but you aren't sure how to articulate and project that, that's where practicing and learning to speak with confidence really comes in. My second tip is in alignment with that. You have to know your topic. You have to know what you're talking about. This relates directly to that confidence. I can never speak confidently about something that I have absolutely no clue about. You know, there's the fake it till you make it people, and some people are really good at speaking intelligently on a topic that they're maybe not sure about. If you're not one of those people, do your research, take some time, write down notes, do what you need to do to really get to know what you're saying, whether it's the project you've been assigned, an initiative you're working on. You have your information, know it like the back of your hand, and that will help that confidence come out so you can speak clearly about it. My third is to be very mindful of filler words. These are your ums, your likes, your you knows. This is so difficult for the majority of us. I think I've already counted in my head 3 times that I've said and how I personally have navigated this is take 1 or 2 or 3 days of your consciously in your brain, be tuned in to remember how many times you are going to say or like whatever word it is that you might struggle with that filler word. Because again, you know what you're saying, you have the confidence to say it. The ums and the likes sometimes come when you're uncertain for a second, you need a mental pause, let me throw this word in. You have it. Go ahead and just consciously for the next couple of days, every time you hear or like come out, it'll light up like a light bulb in your brain immediately. My fourth, I'm especially talking to us maybe younger millennials or Gen Z that might be joining us, punctuality. There is this negative kind of thing that we often are late or we don't have our time in order, and that's really not the case for many people. And so that just shows your communication, how you present yourself and how you arrive on time, all of those things. That's a form of communication. It shows your level of care there. And then also last thing, practice patience. This goes in reality to communication. In an era we are so used to immediacy of things, you have to learn to practice patience not only in your everyday actions of life, but how you communicate. When do you expect people to respond to your emails? When is it too long of a time that maybe you should follow up? These are skills with communication and navigating those dynamics. That's very important, I think, for everybody to learn, but especially those of you that might be younger like me. And then I think we have Miss Chudney next.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm actually going to tack on to everything that you've just said because it's okay to take a pause when you're communicating. Not everything requires a response or at least an immediate response. How many of us, show of hands, have gotten an email or been in a conversation and we immediately responded only to find out that we missed a key word or a key phrase that would have completely changed our response? Take your time. It's okay to reread an email or to listen to a voicemail and make sure that you've got it down. I'm a big fan of bullet points, and make sure that reread your stuff before you send it out, because sometimes what's clear to you is not clear to everyone else. Try as much as possible. I know we love, I call it the alphabet soup, where we shorten everything in, but not everyone works in your department, or even the people you live with don't understand usually what's going on in academia and its surrounding areas. It helps, it shortens the time on communication, and it also shows that you're being thoughtful and, like Jory said, being intentional about your communication. I don't always get it right, but I've found those help. And let's see who we have next. Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Of course, my dog decides to start barking as soon as I start talking. So I apologize if you hear her. Okay, so I wanted to kind of shake things up and do a little quiz with everybody. There's going to be 6 questions and there's going to be a pause in between 3. Okay, so raise your hand for these three, or say yes, write them down, whatever you need to do. Okay. 1, do you like straight to the point projects? 2, do you like having all the details you can receive right up front? Nothing is missing. You have all of your information right in front of you, ready to go. The 3rd, do you have a conversation? Do you want to have a conversation meeting? Do you want to have a conversation with somebody, or you're in a meeting and you want it to just go straight to the point, no small talk, no nothing? If you said yes to any of those, you are a task-oriented communicator. All right, the last 3 are, do you have more of a laid-back approach on projects? Do you like when a colleague gives you a short summary and details of your presentation that you just finished, either in face or in a virtual reality? And then the 3rd question is, do you have a little bit of more small talk in the beginning of a meeting or a conversation with somebody? Like, how's it going? What's going on? And then 20 minutes later, you start the meeting. If you said yes to any of those questions, you are a people-oriented communicator. And so for me, I had to really learn these about 5 years ago when I started being in the event industry. And it made me really realize who the person I am when I'm communicating and what other people are communicating to me and how they communicate, because not everyone is going to be a communicator like me or anyone that I work with. So really learning those key notes about the communication that people give you are really important, just like Vanessa and Chetney and all of our panelists so far have said. It's really important to take that pause to really listen to what they're saying and what they're basically asking of you. And again, it is 1,000% okay to say, let's all say it. No. Sorry, I lost my points. Some of the key words to learn for task-oriented communication is someone who is more decisive, risk tolerant, does not want to, jump off that ledge with you of diving into something new. Someone who is competitive, that really wants to, be the one to finish first. Someone who also has a logical mindset more than a, let's go with the flow mindset. And someone who is very reserved and cautious, that doesn't really want to take that time to get to know you personally or want to hear about your day or anything like that. So really learn and watch those key things that people do and say, even in the emails, because sometimes you do miss those words and how you reply is completely different. And then some keywords for the people-oriented are persuasive, optimistic, patient, and support-oriented. I am more of a people-oriented. Jessica and Vanessa have the pleasure of worked with me through some things, and I can talk forever. I have to learn that about myself and really try hard to bring it all back and to have things come back and be like, okay, wait, some people don't like that. Especially with my job, I have to do things quick and figure out how to say it correctly and in a way that they understand it in the most positive way. But those are just kind of some key things that I really wanted to share with you guys. And from personal experience, it's really helped me in the past to learn those people-oriented and task-oriented coworkers and even friends. It has definitely helped me in the past to decide who is kind of in that relationship mode and how to talk to them in the best way that can go to them, because it's important to keep in touch, but also not overstep your boundaries. And then Angelie, what do you have to say about your communication style?
Well, thank you very much. So I had a couple things I wanted to talk about. My first thing was keeping an open mind. Whenever we go into a meeting or an important discussion, people love to have kind of this script in their head about how the conversation is going to go. I'm definitely like that. So if anybody says something that catches me off guard, it's kind of hard to refocus my energy and put my attention back on what they were saying, because I'm thinking all these thoughts about, hold on, wait, I want to make a comment. I want to ask a question. What did you just say? I actually love studying psychology, and there's these things that we do as humans. Our brain creates these little shortcuts. So when you're listening to someone, you take out information or details that you deem as unimportant, but may be very important from what the person is saying. It's where like stereotypes come from and stuff like that. So recognizing that you have to work on this, it's not easy. You have to active listen, as Jory mentioned. Active listening goes with keeping an open mind. You have to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. You don't want to feel like you're ignorant sometimes, but it's important to ask questions because it helps you learn. You also have to recognize your own biases, do your little self-reflection. Sometimes you don't realize that you have these implicit biases. Change your perspective, look at how the other person is coming from the situation. Both professionally and personally, this can help you grow. Another thing I wanted to mention is to understand people and make sure that you are being understood. A lot of times things get lost in translation from a quick conversation you're having, or just like we said, emails and text messages. It's hard to convey tone sometimes. There's actually a video that I was shown in one of my courses way back when, where it was called "It's Not About the Nail." And there's a couple sitting on the couch, and the woman has a nail stuck in her forehead, and she's saying, "Oh, I have all this pressure. I can't figure it out. It just feels like it's never going to let up." And the man says, "Well, there's a nail stuck in your forehead." And they start having this small argument, and she ends it by saying, "It's not about the nail. Stop trying to fix everything. I just want you to listen." And that video was a huge wake-up call for me, because I'm the type of person that likes to fix everything. And if you're coming at me and you need advice, I'm like the first one to throw it out there and give it to you. So it was a huge adjustment for me to learn that people just want to be heard and accepted and know that their feelings are valid. And we're all just complicated human beings. We all come from different backgrounds. It's what makes us great, and it teaches us tolerance and patience. And Jessica, if you would like to finish it up.
Thank you so much. And that was great advice as well. It's not about the nail. And I agree that, oftentimes we don't listen to hear, we listen to respond, right? And that's what we do. So we listen to respond, and we're not really focusing on what, as my grandmother would say, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen more, speak less. She used to tell me that all the time. That listen more, speak less, because when you're listening to people, you really are giving them the chance and that respect to hear them. I have to say, Sarah, I was stuck because I'm task oriented and I'm people oriented as well. So I was kind of in the middle on that. But I agreed, understanding that, so I learned a lot. Thank you very much. I have to say, to end this topic of communication, I tend to prepare. So I find myself that if I get into a difficult situation where I might be going into a meeting that we're talking about resources, and knowing that the resources that might be a tough conversation, I want to walk into that meeting prepared with all of my information. That way I'm not blindsided, but I also have solutions if the topic comes up. And so I often go into faculty meetings, student meetings, different workshops, presentations, try and know everything I can about the situation so that I have a solution going in. And I find that helps with my communication. That tampers my anxiety, and it also gives me time to process solutions before they're brought to me. And so oftentimes, if we have a difficult situation in front of us, and we're told no, or we're told something really difficult, the automatic response for me is I get hot really fast, and I get cold really fast. So I need to prepare myself going into that if I know ahead of time. Sometimes you can't get that. Sometimes you don't have that opportunity and you're blindsided. And I've learned to pause and smile. And I probably might look a little silly, but I pause and smile and breathe. You ever had some really difficult conversation, or really something that stuns you? It just kind of knocks you backwards for a second. I stop and smile, and I say, I'm going to give that some thought, and we'll circle back to this tomorrow. And then I kind of go on to the next. And I found that's really helped, because what might have come out of my mouth at that moment, it wouldn't be how I wanted it delivered. And that then starts the bad communication because it's hot and heavy. So that's kind of the advice. And, one last thing to say with that is oftentimes we get these emails that are borderline difficult, we'll say, right? You're not sure how to respond. Write the email out, wait 2 hours, go back to it, write it, put it in your draft box, walk away. 2 hours, you go back to it, you still, maybe next day, wait till the next morning, just sleep on it. Have a nice little slumber, let it marinate, and then go back to it the next day. Because oftentimes you'll look at it and say, wow, that's not how I wanted that to come across. And so take a time to think about how you're communicating as well as how you're accepting others' communications. And so with that, I think we'd like to open it up to some of our amazing attendees to ask any questions of the panelists. Is this time for Q&A, ToCarra? Perfect. Thank you. All right. I see some questions coming in. Do we have a moderator, or can I take the first questions?
It's not questions, but it's just actually the first one is not a question. It's just Dr. Butler said, great advice. I also heard to slow down and be more deliberate in your delivery. I think this was maybe in reference to what Chudney was saying. I don't remember, but it came in earlier. And then the second one is a question. I like the nail analogy, but isn't it also sometimes about the nail? Though I agree, people need to be heard. My counseling lens. And another comment, everyone's comments were outstanding, so usable. So no questions yet.
I think we have a couple of that we had prepared previously. And so this one would be, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever received? So while we wait for more questions to come in, I'll go ahead and start us off. My biggest piece, but best advice would have come from my grandmother, who said, bloom where you're planted until you're ready to be repotted. Essentially, it's invest in you. Go ahead and do the best work that you possibly can, regardless of what job you have or in your family life. And do things that enrich you, study things that enrich you and give you skills to move forward. And then when it's time for you to find that new job, or you want to do something else that will benefit you or your family, you will have the skills to move forward. And then that's taking care of you. What do you think about that, Sasha?
So thanks for that. When I think about that, I necessarily wasn't given a specific quote of a type of career advice, but the biggest thing that my grandfather always instilled in me, especially coming from my type of background as a first generation student, education was super important, and making sure and that you can support yourself. And that's the one thing that no one can ever take away from you. My grandfather always preached that. So for me, what was really great is once I graduated, I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do or what field I wanted to go into. So I talked to so many, parents and adults and different people that are in their career paths that are, 40 years into these careers and they hate it, or they're super unhappy. And I just never wanted to end up that way. So instead of jumping into necessarily a career or just, pretending to tell myself, okay, maybe try nursing, maybe it'll be good for you, I actually took the time to just kind of invest in myself and figure out what I enjoyed, what I identified with, some of my likes and, what I kind of enjoyed and my passions and interests. And that was probably the best, most enlightening experience for me, just because now I'm kind of in a place where I know exactly what I want to do. I was able to tie all those different traits to one, possible career move for me. So I guess the piece of advice to kind of wrap up is that don't feel that there's a time frame for you to rush anything, your career, your education. It's just important to know that the best thing that could happen to you might take some time. So I think for all of us, sometimes it's hard to acknowledge that because, we have a 5-year plan and we want to follow it and stay in order. But I think deviating from that and taking a risk is actually a really brave and cool thing to do. Let's see who's next here. Angel, what do you think about that?
I think the best piece of career advice that I ever received, or life advice as well, was something simple, which is just ask questions. Sometimes, like with the saying no, we don't want to seem weak or like we don't know what we're doing, which I used to do that when I started a new job. Is I would just absorb all this information and then try to find solutions if I didn't know the answers, which like made no sense, just because I was like, oh, I want to be really good at this job and show that I don't need any help, which I don't know why I had that idea in my head, because you can come across as like a know-it-all, as like, well, you're making mistakes. Why didn't you just ask me how to help, like for help? So learning to ask questions. If I don't understand something, even in like life, relationships, friendships, sometimes we get scared if someone's mad at you or you think they're mad at you. And you're like, well, I'll just let them like cool off or whatever, when sometimes they just want someone to talk to. And you can just say, hey, are you okay? Did I do something? Is there anything I can do to help you? So just ask questions.
So my advice is kind of very similar to Angelique's. And my advice was actually recently because of the pandemic, it took a really hard turn on me because I am such a people person, and I got stuck in my house for 2 months, not going anywhere, no grocery stores or anything like that. So it was really hard. And one of my friends gave me this advice of saying, don't let someone else's negativity bring you down. It's not your burden to carry. And the reason that they gave that to me is because I am such the person that will listen to you and hear you cry, and anything that you need, I am that friend that you call at 4 a.m. to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so upset, or oh my gosh, I have to tell you this amazing news. And it was really hard on me because I was taking time for them instead of myself to listen to their stories and their problems and trying to carry their burdens rather than really listening to myself and having a chance for me to kind of reset like everyone had in the beginning of COVID almost. And the best advice I can give anyone that's listening to us right now is to remember that everyone's burdens are different and that you have the option to choose your burdens for yourself. Don't let your negative vibes or feelings or anything that comes to you in a negative way let win over you. Give your chance that positive word. Find those positive words that really, like, if it's, I'm going to have a very wonderful day, make sure you say that at least 5 times a day. Or write things on your mirror and look at yourself in the morning and read them out loud to yourself to encourage you to have that positivity. That has really helped me in the past, and that advice will always stay with me. And
I think we have some questions in the chat as well, if you all would like to maybe possibly tackle those. Angel, Dr. Butler had asked, is it always about the nail? Is it sometimes really about the nail?
I guess sometimes it could be, if it's actually just a very obvious solution, but I think the metaphor is more towards just being heard and being understood and being accepted. It's not really an actual problem. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's not like, say there isn't a real issue, so there is nothing for you to solve. It's just letting me vent.
I would have to agree. Ashley asks, sometimes that when networking, males can dominate the conversation and shift the conversation towards another topic, such as cars. When they do this, kind of get lost. Are there any suggestions when these situations unfold?
So as you probably can guess, I'm like a person that like to read everything. So one of the things that I have done in this situation is there's this thing called the shine theory, where if another woman's in the room and you see another woman dealing with something like that, you back her up, right? So if someone's, if you're having a conversation and the male is trying to dominate the conversation and you see her trying to engage in the conversation and being cut off or it being streamlined to something where she can't be included, you help draw her in, or pick up on a part of it that you do understand and move forward. So those are kind of things that I would suggest to do.
I'd like, if we can, there's a really good question in the chat. How do you learn to stand up for yourself at work and negotiate what you know you deserve? Jessica and I were on once with a guest speaker in a panel, and I'll never forget that a gentleman said, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And that's entirely true, that you often have to advocate for yourself. Sometimes you have supporters and allies, and sometimes you don't. So know what you deserve off the bat, add tax to it because there's more, and really, again, do that research. You know yourself. Make sure you never sell yourself short. Keep a document on your computer every month. Write down all the things that you did that month that was above and beyond or additional, that maybe it wasn't in your normal scope of duties. At the end of the year, you're going to have 2020 work accomplishments, and no matter how big or small, if it was anything like that, add it to it, because when it comes down to you to be able to start negotiating, you have your dates, your facts, your figures, you're ready to go to say, this is all that I've done in the last year, month, weeks, whatever the case is. So that's what I would say. You get in life what you negotiate, not necessarily what you deserve.
Thank you, Vanessa. And thank you to all of my ladies for joining the panel and for our guests. As a quick announcement, please take a moment to complete the
ToCarra. Well, I think she was going to say,
not be able to do everything.
ToCarra, can you repeat? Start from the beginning right there. You were cut out for a second.
Oh, I am so sorry. I said, please take a moment to complete the survey that has been added to the chat. My apologies, you know, the internet. This session was a teaser for what is to come for women at UCF, and we need to hear your voices to ensure we are creating opportunities and initiatives that are meaningful to you. We may not be able to do everything, but ACE Women's Network would like to do what is best for our community as well as our team. If you are joining via YouTube, you will receive the survey via the ACE Women's Network listserv. So rest assured, we'll be able to hear your voices as well. And keep in mind that it will take me some time to review everything. So please be patient. I think somebody said that. Please be patient with me. With that being said, to my fellow panelists and audience members, I leave you with these words. Regardless of who you are, where you are from, the position you hold, or how much education you have, you are superwomen. You are beautiful. You are important. You are needed. Your voice, your talents, and your infinite wisdom is needed. Take the time to invest in you. Carve out time to take care of yourself and to pursue your dreams. Dare to be different. Celebrate your uniqueness, ladies, because you are amazing and the world is blessed to have you. From one queen to another, I wish you love, peace, joy, happiness, and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, ToCarra. Thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.